So I've been sick with COVID for about 2 weeks now, and I don't know about you, but when I'm sick, I do not want to do much of anything. I mostly want to sit on the couch and watch TV, but I can't watch just anything. I want to watch something that is really absorbing, but that can distract me from how I feel. Something that's not too dark and not too difficult to understand. And ideally, I want it to be funny. This led me to watching Wicked Little Letters, a movie which had a short run in theaters last March and is now on Netflix.
The mystery of the obscene little Hampton letter is causing widespread distress across the nation.
And oh my word, did I love this movie. And I'm not alone. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's gotten 80% from critics and a 92% from audiences. I knew almost nothing about this movie going into it. Here's what I knew. It's British, it's a mystery with comedic undertones, or it's a comedy with mystery undertones. And that's it. That's what I knew. Folks, this movie is great, and it could not have been a better pick for me, but it is also not what I expected. It turns out that this is a feminist movie with broad political commentary, and in my opinion, it does what it is trying to do with the perfect amount of wokeness. Here's the actual synopsis. A 1920s English seaside town bears witness to a farcical and occasionally sinister scandal in this riotous mystery comedy. Based on a stranger-than-fiction true story, Wicked Little Letters follows two neighbors, deeply conservative local Edith Swan and rowdy Irish migrant Rose Gooding. When Edith and fellow residents begin to receive wicked letters full of unintentionally hilarious profanities, foul-mouthed Rose is charged with the crime, and a trial ensues. However, as the town's women, led by police officer Gladys Moss, begins to investigate the crime themselves, they suspect that something is amiss, and Rose may not be the culprit after all. I did not read the synopsis before watching this movie, but in my opinion, the political commentary in this movie is how woke should always be done. Its messages are contained to the relevance of the story being told, and it lets viewers extrapolate whether and how the themes explored relate to modern-day politics on gender. Primarily what we witness are the stark differences between conservatively minded people and liberally minded people, the repression of women through gender roles, and what happens when one side accuses the other of crimes without evidence. As a reminder, this is set in Britain over 100 years ago. The broadest definitions for conservatives and liberals are being applied here. Conservative, averse to change, holding traditional values, and liberal, willing to respect or accept differences in others, open-minded. The controversy circles around conservative character Edith Swan being the recipient of nasty letters in the post. This is particularly upsetting because Edith strives to be the epitome of moral goodness, according to her conservative values and expectations for how women ought to appear and behave in this time and place. She lives with her overbearing father and quiet trad wife of a mother. There is a secondary mystery around why Edith is a spinster who still lives with her parents at her age. She is at least over 30, especially as there is a reference to a previous engagement with a man who wanted to marry her but left for unknown reasons. At any rate, the conservative Swan family discusses the nasty letter sent to Edith over a meal, and they come to the conclusion that their neighbor, Rose Gooding, is the author. Liberally minded Rose is nothing like Edith. Rose is a widow. She has a child. Because she is a married woman whose husband died in World War I, she has a freedom most women in this town don't have. She is loud. She is untidy. She swears like a sailor. And she hangs out with men in disreputable places doing whatever she wants. She even has a live-in boyfriend. But Rose does have a secret, which, like Edith's missing fiancé, is also revealed toward the end of the movie. Keep in mind that I am not recommending this movie for its mystery plot. The mystery is entertaining, but it's not a complicated whodunit with multiple twists and red herrings. The entire movie is only an hour and 42 minutes. They don't have time for that. It is also not an accurate retelling of historical events. While based on a true story, it has been boiled down to the essential elements. Some creative license has been taken. The focus is on the characters, Edith and Rose, and how their values and lives differed, and how those differences lead to justice and injustice. While who wrote the letters is interesting, the why is more interesting, most especially because Edith and Rose were friends until the incident of the letters tore their friendship apart. Who had the most to gain in seeing that friendship destroyed? That is the core of the mystery. Thematically, this movie is unapologetically feminist. It explores gender roles and the oppression of women during a time when conformity to gender roles was more extreme. It stars two women with a mystery plot investigated and solved by another woman. I should also note that this movie ignores, for the most part, racism and intersectionality. This is a piece of media where race plays almost no importance in the casting. It's not that racism didn't exist in this historical time and place, but the story isn't about that, so it doesn't bother to be historically accurate with the casting choices. This movie is short and doesn't waste your time. It trusts you to understand what's important and what is not important thematically within the context of the plot. It focuses on sexism and misogyny from an angle that ought to feel archaic, but is surprisingly still really relevant to modern sensibilities. Even though it's set over 100 years ago, I saw elements of my own conservative upbringing in this film. It captures the values of liberal and conservative households and the impacts of deviance and conformity, respectively. It also explores the barriers women face in the workforce through the point of view of woman police officer Gladys Moss, who takes it upon herself to solve the mystery and prove the innocence of Rose Gooding. While inherently feminist, this is not a film that can only be enjoyed by women. My husband watched this movie with me. I chose it for us to watch together because he likes funny mysteries. That was before I knew Wicked Little Letters was even a feminist film. But he really liked it. He even commented with some surprise how blatant sexism was back then. At which point, I had to pause the movie and have a discussion with him. I said that it wasn't surprising and that sexism is still a blatant problem today. And after a week of news commentary on the US presidential election race in which Kamala Harris is being attacked by conservative pundits as a DEI candidate, he now agrees with me. Women are still struggling with the issues raised in this film. Women still face barriers being taken seriously in the workforce, especially in positions with prestige or power. Women still grow up in repressive patriarchal households with conservative traditional values that don't encourage them to be themselves, but rather to conform to gender roles that limit women by design. I know that I did. Meanwhile, women who grew up in liberal households are more likely to fight with their parents or rebel against the norms of their day and become who they want to be. But there can be a cost to that nonconformity, especially when the society around you is conservative. While not the end of the story, it is a small spoiler to say that Rose Gooding is sentenced to 12 months hard labor for the crime of living freely. Jealousy plays a role in that, and that kind of bias still plays out today, with women critiquing, attacking, or casting doubt on the moral worthiness of other women who have power, ambition, freedom, or success that they do not. Women who lack freedom can despise women who have it. They just can't abide women who escaped the conformity that they chose, or were bullied and abused into accepting. And this is also a theme in Wicked Little Letters. Narcissistic abuse is arguably responsible for the miscarriage of justice in this film. Narcissists can't conceive of fault within themselves and are apt to reflexively blame someone, anyone else, quickly and without evidence to avoid perception of blemish or mistake. While narcissism is not confined to conservatism, not by a mile, the type of narcissism explored in this movie is intrinsic to a conservative mindset of conformity that insists upon moral flawlessness for women. The reason Edith Swan accuses Rose Gooding of writing letters is because she needs someone to blame. It's not because she has actual evidence it was Rose. In fact, she denies evidence that it was not Rose, simply because she doesn't want to be wrong. Instead, she doubles down, and the consequences are devastating. And that's all I'm going to say about the plot because I don't want to fully spoil it. Who should watch this movie? Honestly, anyone who wants to be entertained for 2 hours and is open-minded to the themes. I am not surprised to learn, though, that there are some people who really, really hate this movie. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This movie is woke. It is the essence of woke. It is everything every so-called woke movie and TV show gets blasted for by conservative commentators. And it's not subtle about it. It is about social justice. It is about the oppressive nature of gender roles, and it is unapologetically feminist. It has mixed race casting where that historically doesn't make sense, and it stars female leads. And it delivers some whopping commentary on conservatism versus liberalism. So yeah, it's unapologetically woke. It's also really good, and funny, and short. So yeah, you should watch it.
You look like Queen Victoria showing. You daft old.
And that's all I have to say on this matter at this time. I watched a few other shows while I have been sick, and I would love to comment on them as well, but I'll probably separate out the videos into a couple short installments just so I can have more content appear more regularly on this channel. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and please drop a comment below. I really do hope that you watch Wicked Little Letters, and after you do, you come back here and give me your thoughts on it. I thought it was an enjoyable film, and I would like to enjoy it with more people. So thanks for listening, and until next time.